There we go. There's Ginger. She's back. Welcome, Ginger. We're
Hello,
gonna
Ginger.
and Jimmy's back. Okay, welcome.
Hello, Jimmy.
Well, it might not be Jim. I think Jimmy came in early and it turned out to be a lady.
Well, it could be a lady, Jimmy.
That's cool. Okay, we're getting more people. Okay, welcome. All right, hi there. My name is Tony Parker, and I'm here with my good friend Stephen Gottlieb, who is a intuitional healer, and he has incredible abilities. I call them psychic, but he calls them intuitional and a few other things and spiritual. But he's going to be our featured practitioner tonight. He has all kinds of skills and abilities, and we're going to start, I guess, with a little interview and then followed by perhaps, if time and energy allow, maybe a few demonstrations or treatments or whatever of his very various amazing skills. I can personally vouch for Stephen because he helped me once when I was really seriously afflicted, but we'll get into that story later. We're gonna That's a
Yeah, okay.
cliffhanger,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, right.
That's the
Those who want to
teaser.
the late night hangout.
Right? That's the teaser, right? When the
Yeah,
kids have gone to sleep.
yeah.
Anyway, why don't you start off with this? You have a very interesting story because, as you said, when we were talking earlier, I was surprised to hear that your early, your child, unlike a lot of psychics and healers, you had a pretty nuts and bolts, pragmatic, practical upbringing, right? And spirit and the stuff that we talk about wasn't on the table. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's very correct. It was kind of frowned upon mostly because I guess my father didn't have any of those beliefs, and he sort of ruled the roost in what our belief systems were supposed to be. And it wasn't even until I got to tell you quite honestly, even as short a time, hey Ginger, as short a time as maybe 10, 12 years ago. Um, can you see me, Tony, still?
I see you perfectly.
Oh, okay, great. So we see Ginger seems to be having a audio issue that's
Well, people are kind of they learn how. Don't worry about them. Just worry
all
about
right.
they'll
Yeah,
figure it out. It's
even as little as 12 years ago,
okay.
or so, when I finally came out to my family that I do all this holistic healing stuff, it was kind of weird for them. My father finally goes, Stephen, I don't believe any of that. Let's call it stuff. Oh, don't right? I go,
Right.
yeah, Dad, I know that. And a few years later, he fractured his foot. He just tripped on something and fractured his foot. So I called him up and says, I don't care what you believe in or not. I'm coming out and I'm going to work on your foot. So here I am out there. Now I get my chance to strut my stuff. What's my father going to say? So I get out there. He's got a cast on his foot. I said, let me have that foot. I put it in my lap. He goes, there's a cast on it. I says, it doesn't matter. The healing energy knows exactly where they go. And I'm over there with my hands on this and I'm going, heal, 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 and I realized that nothing's happening. When you do energy work, energy flows. You tune into a field and you get a sense for things and you sort of let go and let what happens, but nothing was happening. So finally I gave up. I said, let's watch TV. Let's have some dinner. Before I left, I went, give me that foot again. So I grabbed it, I put it in my lap, and this time I tuned in for intuitive guidance. I didn't do that before. I was a bit arrogant. This time I tuned into intuitive guidance, and intuitive guidance said, why don't you try moving your hand over here? I pulled my hand around over there. I felt as if I kind of latched onto something really subtle and it started to move my hand around. My hand's a good 15 inches from my father's foot. And all of a sudden, his eyes opened up and he goes, hey, I feel that. And that was the confirmation that I was looking for probably since I was 6. Not that I ever displayed any kind of healing or intuitive tendencies, but I'm so confident with them now that I was able to even challenge my father's belief system. And I'm so glad that spirit came through for me in that. So no matter what happens ever, if I challenge him and he says, you don't believe that stuff, he goes, oh yeah, I remember you did that thing with my foot. When you can feel something and there's literally nothing connected between what you're doing and a person's sensation in their body, that kind of trumps any kind of disbelief.
Awesome. Now,
Yeah.
I'm just curious. So basically, your change or your awakening came later in life. But when was it? Was there a kind of an epiphany, or was it a gradual process? Or
It's what we call in the spiritual business synchronicity,
uh-huh.
or a convenient coincidence. So I was going through a period of my life where every job I had somehow collapsed for whatever reason, as my industry was collapsing around me.
Okay.
And at one point, I wondered what the hell was going on with my career, and I didn't know what to do with myself. And I started asking questions like, well, what does my soul want in this world? And after I voiced that question to myself, later that day, I happened to just tune into the end of one of Gary Null's, radio programs, and he was interviewing a gentleman who has an intuitive healing school, and he said, "And tonight we're having a class on discovering what our soul wants." And I went, "Wait a second, that sounds familiar." And I took a chance, and I took out my $25 and I went to see him, and I was quite fascinated, and he gave me an opportunity to sense kind of a little bit about what he's about. I kind of dug it and decided to go back for a week where I really learned. Tony, gonna have to ask people to mute themselves.
Don't worry. I'll be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And Logan's making a lot of noise. Let me just go take care of Logan. Logan, there you go. He was making a lot of technical noises there. That's okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, so I bit the bullet and I enrolled in a weekend workshop where I learned about things that I never knew before.
Right.
My original awareness started to open up as I discovered things like skiing and yoga in my early 20s, and then people started giving me little books on Zen and consciousness, and then I tripped across Gary Zukav's Dancing Wooly Masters, and I learned about how the quantum mechanics really works with the ideas of the subjective nature of our mind that's connected to the universe, and it had very close ties to what the Aborigines and the shamans all believe. What runs the universe. So that shifted my idea of what was possible. That, along with consciousness studies, and I was trained as an electrical engineer, quote unquote, a scientist. But for some reason, I always had an open mind. The interesting thing about electrical engineering is because you learn about interactive systems, and it's not stuff you can see. You can't see electricity, right? But you know that there's wireless communication, and you know that you can shift the way things operate in concert with each other by changing the nature of the circuits. And even if you go into the mathematics understands that there's multiple dimensions, and there's even things as in ordinary reality, non-real numbers. And we use those in order to do our work. So somehow that all connected with me. Many, many, many years later, when I ran into Peter Roth and I learned about people who had already written, like Ling McTaggart,
Peter's a great guy. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And I learned about sacred geometry, like the stuff that I'm wearing here. I mean, there's a lot of things I didn't know. I saw a deck of Hebrew alphabet cards on the ground, something that you would show in Hebrew school to somebody learning how to, read Hebrew. And I'm going, well, what's that for? And he goes, don't you understand that this is a sacred language, and that form itself operates with the energy of the universe in a certain way, and we can use that as a healing tool. And I was hearing all these things that I was just confounded by. I mean, I was really eager to learn about stuff that I didn't know.
You also had a spiritual master who I remember. What, Bruno? Is that later on, or is that?
Bruno is a different kind of thing. Wasn't a personal spiritual master for me, but the bottom line for people with healing is, if it happens in a miraculous way, then maybe you can believe in something, because there's no apparent cause and effect. Right. So many years later.
Okay, so he's later on. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ruin your timeline.
No, I'll just tell you the story about Bruno. So there's something called Bruno Gruning, Circle of Friends, that continues to teach about what happened in Germany between 1949 and 1959, where Bruno Gruning was a healing phenomenon. He was a sensation. He was on the front page practically every day because he got into this big controversy in Germany because the officials wanted to shut him down for practicing healing without a healing permit. and the doctors were claiming that he was a charlatan, but thousands of people would gather wherever he was, and all kinds of miraculous healings would happen.
Right.
And he was one of those rare individuals who sort of came out into this world instantly attuned with nature and healing and a connection to some higher spiritual knowing that most of us aren't exposed to. So even to this day, just being exposed to his teachings and tuning in, you know, we can absorb a healing field of energy with our intention to do so. And in many cases, people really have a remarkable documented shift where they might need hospitalization for a particular illness, and all of a sudden the illness goes away. So when that stuff happens, you got to pay attention.
Absolutely. Just a minute, Stephen. All right, everybody who's just come in, I'm interviewing Stephen Gottlieb, an amazing intuitive healer and practitioner. And again, everybody, hopefully towards the end, after he's been the interview, he might be persuaded to give some treatments or demonstrations of his an amazing skill set. All right, carry on, Steve.
Yeah, well, so the whole thing about that is it's a belief system. But when you, again, there's evidence. I mean, there's credible evidence. The woman who was still running this organization was there from the beginning and became one of his assistants. So she was witness to thousands and thousands of miraculous healings. Recently, we have Brazzo that's come out, so a lot of people make fun of him. And I can't speak to thousands and thousands of healings because with Bruno, they were documented. There's a medical working group in Germany that has case studies documenting thousands and thousands of healings that were certified by other medical practitioners that the only way that this was possible was some sort of spiritual intervention. So what happens when we do healing work? Where do we get the intuition? Or if we do Reiki, where does all this healing energy come from? And eventually, after studying with Peter, it opened up many doors. One of the doors that it opened up for me was to give myself permission to use knowledge of how the body's energy systems work and various different forms of healing with my intuition. And I developed the mastery of energy testing using muscle testing, or something that most people know.
I must admit,
kinesiology.
You are probably one of the most brilliant and accurate kinesiologists I've ever encountered.
Yes, thank you very much.
The guy is a pro. Trust me. He's amazing at his intuition goes right to it using kinesiology. I hope you guys. Well, tell him what kinesiology is anyway, or muscle testing, or.
Well, for an intuitive, you can tune in and try to get a sense of what's going on by asking questions. And you need a way of being able to validate that. For me, I didn't feel that I was plugged into some instant knowing that was coming through that many psychics may claim that they are plugged into. So I developed this skill of muscle testing. Now, muscle testing was around since the 60s. George Goodhart developed it as a system that he could teach chiropractors to identify imbalances in the body's system and then provide a correction for it. And what he would do is he would map out a different way of testing muscles. So if a muscle group, for example, a thigh muscle, he would hold a person's foot out and ask him to resist as he pushed. And if that was strong, but the other one, he did the same thing when weak, then he knew that he could map that to a dysfunction in like the liver. And then he also had a system of trigger points where he would massage the corrective point for the liver meridian, and then he'd go back and all of a sudden the muscle would be strong. And he developed a system of detecting and correcting energetic imbalances in people's bodies. So many people learned to apply kinesiology that way. Along comes John Diamond, Dr. John Diamond, in the early 70s, and he wrote a book called Your Body Doesn't Lie. And he explained a very simple technique of muscle testing by using an outstretched arm
which Gary Craig used to do.
Well, that's where Gary Craig got it from, but Gary Craig got it from Roger Callahan, who studied all this stuff. Right. Callahan also he studied with George Goodhart.
Okay.
But the difference with what John Diamond did was he recognized that external energetic forces affect our energy system, and we can see what affects us positively and what affects us negatively. So something that affects us negatively could be an object, a visual object that carries a certain energy frequency that's disharmonious with our own. And then when we push on a muscle that should be strong, and the muscle go, we know that there's a disturbance there. But more importantly, what he realized was that same influence could be a negative thought or a positive thought. So if you ask somebody to think of something that they feel really great about and you muscle test them, they're going to test strong. If you ask them to think about some problem or concern that they have, their energy system is going to relate that with a weak arm. And every time I do,
you should write a book about this too.
Well, I've given many presentations, so I was fortunate enough to be able to learn that. Anybody can learn that, but I developed the skill of surrogate muscle testing, where I use my own fingers instead of somebody's arm. So I can do this on the fly, and of course via the internet and via the phone. So I'm doing this all the time. Anytime I need to rely on intuitive information, what I'm doing basically is I'm either reading the information about the truth in whatever field it is that we're all immersed in, that is giving us access to this information, or somehow I'm just intending to pick up what a person's energy field is telling me because the subconscious is relaying this energy. Or it might be that we have these guardian angels that are working together, and this that I get with my hands is just confirming whether I'm getting yes or no information when I ask what this is all about.
And all of this could also be called psychic.
Well, it could be, but because I never felt that I was a psychic, I decided to call it intuitive instead. It felt safer for me, and it felt more true for me.
Well, no, I agree. But again, it's
to the field,
exactly.
And now I'm using the muscle testing to confirm what I get, because I don't trust my psychic ability. I trust my intuition, but I don't want to guess. I don't want to start guessing on the behalf of my client, because I've developed the skill of muscle testing, and I have complete faith in it, because I put myself in a time and place where I only want to make sure I get accurate information for the highest and best good, for the purpose of working with the person for their highest and best good. I don't want to be messing around and showing off.
So, Steve, let's go back to, when did you actually start to hang your shingle? When did you go from student to practitioner and master? And what were sort of the kind of... Go ahead.
About 13, 14 years ago.
Okay. And what were the kind of obviously, keeping anonymity of clients and patients, but what were the kinds of situations or cases you feel are noteworthy or interesting that's you'd like to bring up?
Oh, my God. Well, there's many. I mean, in the beginning, I would just get anybody who would want to come. I mean, basically what happens is that when people run out of answers, how to try to figure out how to solve their problems, and the problems could be problems in their life with their relationships, or a problem with their work situation, or a problem with their self-esteem. But basically, I tried to twist it so that it would be empowerment work. No matter what I did, I wanted to get to a place where we can affirm for them what is really going on in their mind. If somebody came to me and they said, I'm having a hard time, finding the right relationship, they always seem to tank, I would turn it around and go deep and try to find what the real thing is that we need to empower here. And very often things like, I can love myself, or I can be happy, or I can be peaceful no matter what. Or when I muscle tested those things, they would all go weak. So to me, that was the problem to focus on, because you might be trying to find your happiness in a relationship, but if you got something going on for some reason, some programming that's twisted out of shape that says I'm not lovable or I can't be happy,
exactly,
that's what we got to work on. So I would do the energy work. I would balance chakras. I put people on the table. After I did what I thought I needed to do based upon where my intuition was taking me, I would just open it up for spirit to say, just show me where I need to go. And I would move my hands and do whatever I needed to do. And sometimes funny things would happen, like people's legs, that kind of stuff. At one point,
somebody, there we go.
Somebody trying to chime in?
No, I just, again, if you're doing something else, please go to mute, guys. Give Steve a chance. It's just bad manners. So if you're doing
All we
something
are
else,
saying
there we
is
go.
give Steve a
There
chance.
you go.
I've been watching a lot of John Lennon stuff lately.
Oh, yes.
So
Now,
to continue the story, one day I just became overwhelmed, realizing that I hung my shingle out, and it's not me doing the work; it's spirit doing the work, and I'm just a channel for it. And I felt so humbled that I just collapsed in the chair and I said, God's doing the work. How do I market this? How do I market God? So I kind of got into a funk until I resurrected my skills as an EFT practitioner, because now I've got something that I can do with people, and no matter what, I was always getting good results. And it's because I was a good EFT practitioner, not necessarily because God was doing the healing. Now, of course, I used my intuition and my muscle testing to help to get to core problems that necessarily weren't on the top of my client's mind. And when we do that, and use EFT, amazing things happen. So now I'm moving it back towards an integrated approach where I might do that, but I realize it's a healing session, not just an EFT session. So I
right.
have other things that I bring to the table.
hmm Now, what about the skiing in the zone? Because I remember
Skiing is on.
that's where I think I met you the most was up at Hunter, right? Up at your place in
Well, you,
Hunter.
you came to see me up in Hunter. I spend the winters up in Hunter near Woodstock because I'm a ski instructor. So before I became a healer, my way of healing people was showing them how to turn on their joy by sharing this love of skiing and the passion. When you're out there sliding on the snow and all of a sudden you discover your ability to make these nice smooth turns, the body goes, oh, I love this. And some people really hook into that. So after about 25 years of that and developing my skills as I'll call it an intuitive ski coach before I knew I was intuitive, because I always knew where to go to help somebody figure out what they were doing wrong and how to guide them to do it better and have their own learning experience. When you have a learning experience, you get so excited that you can use techniques like from neurolinguistic programming, NLP, and you can anchor those in. So now you've got an experience of going, I had an aha experience. How do I remember what this feels like and what mind body state I was in, so I can go back the next time I feel challenged and remember that state, and poof, all of a sudden you're able to operate in the zone. And
hmm
that in the zone became a metaphor for in the zone in the life. And it's funny how the metaphor fits, because in skiing, the thing that we're afraid of is the slippery slope,
Right.
right? And we're always trying to put the brakes on to control our speed. Whereas in life, anything that causes us to be caution is going to slow us down, and we're going to put the brakes on. So we're blocking ourselves. But once we're open up to be free, the paradox with skiing is you go down the fall line and you let go of trying to put the brakes on, and the skis work better, and you have more control, and you have more of the feeling of peace and beauty and flow.
Right.
So I use those as metaphors so I can teach skiing in the zone workshops
Right.
using those metaphors for people who have no intentions of skiing.
Right. But that's awesome. That's a wonderful application in a kind of a directly demonstrable positive way as well.
Absolutely. With skiing, you're either doing it or you're not doing it. And when you are doing it correctly, you get an instantaneous result.
Exactly. That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, so it's
Now,
beautiful.
the other thing I wanted to bring up for everybody, and I want to steer this into woo-woo land, okay? Because you also
I'm up
have,
for it.
besides behind you have a great spiritual depth as well. And the way I'm going to bring this about is that I came to Steve because I had some kind of possession or attachment. And Steve, he didn't give up on me. He actually, I guess, it was you, but then also some of your friends. You did what in effect would be called an exorcism, and it worked. But I was just curious, what were those? I mean, obviously, besides the technical thing, what was spiritually going on or psychically going on from your side or your perspective?
Well, I was very fortunate to have a very open mind and be had very very good solid training by a lot of different people. So my belief system allows me to not be fearful of unusual aberrations. And when you and I first started working together, you warned me. You said, I've had these weird experiences. Something might happen. I said, well, Tony, I've seen a lot, and if it comes my way, don't worry about it. We'll do our best to handle it. And you and I worked, and we didn't really go deep. But one day, intuition said, it's time for me to put my hands on you. And you said, okay. And as I did, and I started working with you, weird stuff started to happen. Just put it that way. So I don't want to go into any details, but you had told me that several different people that work with you, when that happened in their experience, they basically ran away and never talked to you again. And I promised you that I would never do that for you. So because I was able to hold my ground without any fear and hold your space so that you can see that it was safe to go through whatever that was happening here, I just trusted that spirit would allow whatever was moving through you to take its form, show its stuff, and just render itself harmless. So it was my intention to hold that space for you that I think did the work. Okay. Plus whatever intuition I remember we worked a little bit more, and I remember pulling energies out of you and that kind of stuff. And then I referred you to people who have much more skill, and they are specifically trained on dealing with spiritual aberrations like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anyway, so there you go. I just wanted to bring that up because that's a personal testimonial for Stephen's skill and ability.
Yes.
So, so what are you doing nowadays? I know you've been doing different workshops, I guess mostly around White Plains, because that's where you practice. You live and practice, right?
I do, but I've moved my practice more to a coaching format that I do via Zoom and on the phone. I feel that I can do that just effectively as I can with people, in my space, and I don't need to put my hands on them. I can put their body in my hand. I can move energy. I can correct chakras, and I can do basically everything. Maybe there is an advantage of putting my hands on people, but I don't feel necessarily that at this point in time that's the work I need to be doing. I could do so much good work for people with energy psychology, with a little bit of cleanup with the energy work at the end, that I've decided to move mostly in that direction.
Awesome. Well, that's. I mean, Zoom is a great format for this. It really is.
Yeah, because everybody's got a life story that's traumatic. Not everybody may have a spiritual possession or some other weird, disease that they can't quite figure out. But if you think about the nature of what runs us as human beings, we're always trying to figure out what the problem is. Right. Which is why so many people, I believe, go to see psychics. They're trying to get information. Right. And when they find out that they can muscle test and they can pull information, then they start asking me questions, and I become very conservative with the way I respond to those requests.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so what's you said you're starting a new Zoom workshop? Are you going to when is that going to be on Meetup or on your website?
What I'll do is no, it'll be on Meetup. Okay. I have a Meetup site called Emotional Freedom Meetup in White Plains. But I
put your Meetup on your event page.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I have a Facebook page called EFT for Emotional Freedom. Okay. So anything that's going to be an online event like that, I'll put it on Meetup, but I'll post it on Facebook. And for people who are on my mailing list, they'll get a newsletter, with a list of events that I'm organizing. So that'll be nice, because this way we don't have to worry about the weather. We don't have to worry about the space. We have the space online. And, if one person witnesses another person's healing, that could be a real blessing for them. As you know, when everybody taps in the group together, we have this thing called borrowing benefits, where everybody is getting the benefit of the energy work and the energy psychology work.
I mean, that's what's so amazing, where you have one person in Australia, the other person is in Israel, the other person's in Sweden, yet there's this weird energy, spanning the globe. It's amazing,
Yeah. Well, weird energy is one way of putting it, but to somebody else, like a Rupert Sheldrake or somebody like that, understands it as an essential concept. It's just that we're not aware of it in our ordinary consciousness, and nobody ever told about this to us growing up. So it seems kind of weird. But how is it that we have all these coincidences? How is it that you can drive down the highway and somebody in the other lane and you look at them and they know you're looking at you and then they turn to look at you? How does that stuff happen? Or how do you know sometimes, when the phone rings, I knew it was that person calling me. You ever have experiences like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things about the way the brain interacts with this weird field of information that some people call the Akashic record, some people call it the field. There's many different kind of ways of languaging it, but I think we're all psychic at a basic level. It's part of our human a skill of being human, but we just tune it out at a very young age because we're told that we shouldn't be believing in nonsensical things that we can't see and prove.
Exactly.
You know.
Well, listen, Stephen, you've been absolutely generous and open with what you're doing, and I was wondering if you have a few moments to spare. Perhaps you might be willing to either answer a few questions, if
Happy
anybody,
to.
and
Yeah.
also if anybody would like a treatment or perhaps a little advice or whatever you could do briefly,
Yep.
given our limitations.
Yeah.
I think I've got Laura. Laura has raised her hand. Congratulations, Laura. You
Hello.
figured out how to do it. Good for you, dear.
Hi, Laura.
Hi. Yeah, I work on Zoom all the time, so
Okay.
it's familiar. Question, just a little intuitive hit, or any other information you might have. Dealing with dehydration, a lifetime of water goes straight through is not absorbed by the body, and have checked into essential oils. I'm a tapping expert, tapping master.
Thought you looked familiar.
Yes, absolutely.
Laura, do you
So-
have a music or a TV on or something?
Oh, my mother was playing Christmas carols. Is
That's okay. That doesn't bother me. As long as we
bothering?
know what it is.
Okay.
Okay, it's
As
Christmas
long as we know what it is.
carols.
So let me just
There we
cut you
go.
off right there, and then I'll ask you a couple of questions, Laura.
There we go.
First of all, I try not to use my gifts to be a medical intuitive, although it's possible that I can use them that way. I want to make sure that I'm ethical and responsible because I don't want to give you false information. That being said, if we each gave ourselves permission to play the game, I could always ask Spirit if we would to guess if they simply tell us yes or no. And that's how I can intuit. Now, when I'm doing this for people in general and trying to solve a mystery problem like that, there's many different energy systems that grew out of that work that I was mentioning earlier about applied kinesiology. Because once we know how to ask the right questions, then we can start to use our own skills as a practitioner. So an acupuncturist could say which meridians are out of balance, or a chiropractor can say which vertebrae are out of balance. And then you can take that into the levels of, well, what emotions are out of balance, what chakras are out of balance. And we found that we can map out all of these very complex systems. And by going and finding, well, this is out of whack, and because that's out of whack, then that's out of whack. And then when that's out of whack, that's out of whack. And then there's a chain of events. So sometimes it takes a long time to go through and check the entire system to see what's out of whack until we get to the underlying problem. That said, if you're interested, I'll use my intuition just to see if I get anything. And I hope you don't mind if I get nothing.
That would be great.
Okay.
And nothing is okay, because that's where I'm starting.
Let me ask you this. So you drink water and it just, you have
Right
to,
through.
nothing holds in your bladder?
Right. Well, basically, it doesn't absorb into my body.
How do you know that?
Because I stay dehydrated. My fingertips are dehydrated. My mouth is dehydrated. My eyes are dehydrated.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
this has been a
So
lifelong
so
problem.
there's something going on. Of course, if you weren't able to ingest water, you wouldn't be alive. So your body is absorbing water on some level, but something else is causing the evaporation of the water or the dryness. So the real question is, what's this dryness all about? I can't seem to stay moist. The first stupid question I'd ask is, since it's all your life, it's probably not, but are you living in an environment where it's very, very arid? There's no humidity, because we need humidity.
No, I'm in Northwest Oklahoma.
Yeah. Okay. So the question I would say, is as a health practitioner, as an intuitive health practitioner, what would it be? First question I ask is can we receive information that gives us guidance onto what this problem is? It's either yes or no. And unfortunately, I don't mean to be a cop out. I'm getting a no, which means that, I can't go there. That's the first question I asked is permission. I'm still open to giving you intuitive insights about anything if you want to. I just want to let you know that I got a no on that one for you. So I don't want to go where I don't belong. I hope you don't mind.
Not at all.
Well,
Yeah.
Laura, I mean, thanks for being brave enough to step up to the plate with a question. But again,
Not a problem.
you came up with a toughie. We've got another hand raised. Okay, Rufaro Madamo, your hand is raised. Can you talk? Can we hear you?
Yes, hi.
Do you have a question
Hi,
or
Rufaro.
something you'd
Hi.
like to ask Stephen? Go ahead.
Or
Hi.
you.
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
I would just like I need some help or some healing. I don't understand on how to improve my emotional state. I've been going through a really tough time of late, so
Okay.
I just need help on how to do that.
All
I
right,
am
very
all
good.
over the place at the moment.
Okay, you're in the right place. Has something happened to you recently that has caused you to have this need, or is this something that you've always felt you needed help with?
Um, for the emotional pain, what happened is I went through a really bad breakup like a few months
Okay.
ago. So I haven't been the
Okay.
same since.
Right. So the source of the emotional pain is the way you're holding in your heart and in your mind the emotional breakup.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this I don't mean to sound that I'm minimizing this, but Tony and I and Laura also knows that there actually are quite very straightforward and simple to learn techniques that can help you with this.
Okay.
One of the techniques is called emotional freedom technique, and it's something that you can learn. And maybe if Tony has a way of doing it after the fact, I'll be able to post either a link to something you can watch or something that you can read, which will show you how to do it. But basically, what you need to do is you need to feel what you're feeling. So the emotions are there. Most people want to take a pill to get rid of the emotions. But when we really feel the emotions with all of our heart and allow ourselves to feel the pain, there's a great deal of healing that can happen. Once we heal the emotional trauma, we can start to get a sense of maybe why this relationship came into our life and maybe the way it happened has hurt us so that we can move on. The problem would be is if you're hurt so badly that you're not able to move on and find other healthy relationships, because we all want to have a healthy relationship, even if it's just a healthy relationship, with our own sense of who we are. Does that make sense?
Yes.
One of the things that we do when we tune in as an intuitive healer is see if there's something in your body's energy field that is so distorted that is holding your emotional pain in place. So as I scan you right now with your permission,
Yes.
if I scan you right now, your second chakra is out of balance, and there's probably a lot more things going on. But the first thing I would do is I would balance that. And one of the ways that you can balance that is by imagine second chakra is right here, right above the pelvic base.
Okay.
It's sort of the center of your physical emotions, not your mental emotions, which is more in the third chakra, but sexuality, power, things that are important to us after the level of our essential needs, fundamental needs like security, like food, that kind of stuff is held in the first chakra. And immediately it goes up to the second chakra, and the second chakra is out of balance. It messes everything up. So the second chakra has a certain sound. You can look into these little chakra charts that show you different sounds, but one of the things you can do is your own sound healing. Try to find the sound. It's deep. This is also known as the Tan Chen, by Tai Chi masters.
Mm-hmm.
So you can hold that space. You can emote from that space. Oh, and you can imagine orange. Orange is the color of that chakra. But what I'm going to do for you right now is that you imagine whatever might be going on in that abdominal space of yours, and I'm going to go ahead and do some. I'm going to do some rebalancing for you there. Okay. So you just go ahead and get quiet in that space. What I'm actually doing is I'm putting your second chakra in the palm of my hand, and I'm using my hand as a energetic activator. And I don't know if you can feel this or not. I'm always surprised when people do, but sometimes you do. So I'm going to do this, and I'm also going to talk about other things. Emotional freedom technique says, even though I have this emotional pain, I deeply accept myself. And when you tap on your body and say that, you're literally starting to rewire the parts of your brain that have become compromised from the shock of the emotional hurt. There's also something that I do called emotion code. And what emotion code allows me to do is to use my muscle testing to go into your body's energy field and literally find trapped emotions. And that's what you're feeling, and identify them by name and pull them out simply with a simple energetic scan. If you were doing it yourself, I'll be right back.
You notice in the back of Steve's office, he's got a chakra chart. Did you guys notice that?
I got all kinds of interesting tools here. This is the second chakra.
This is the orange one, yeah.
That's how the Hindus look at it. And again, this is sacred geometric form, which is the sound, printed in that shape of the sound that your chakra makes. So I have an energetic device here, right? It's a crystal wired with electromagnetic stuff. And when you scan it over your body's meridian system here, the central meridian here, that literally takes my intention to remove those emotions from you, and it sends that signal bioenergetically into your body system where the energy of those hurt emotions is stored. So with emotional freedom technique, we use a process where we think about the problem and all the ways that we remember the story of how it went down, how we got hurt while we're tapping, and changes the way our brain represents the memory. And then we have these other tools which are intuitive in nature, which allow us to go into the body's energy field that had become distorted because you're holding this emotional trauma there, and therefore releasing it. So we need both. We need to be able to do the energy work so you're clear about it, but we need to be able to fix your brain so you can think correctly about the problem and not represent it so much as the wound that it feels like, but growing pains and an opportunity to move on. Make sense?
Yes, it does.
I don't know if you felt any better by that, but I wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Excellent, Steve. By the way, Rufaro, where are you located?
I am in Cape Town, South Africa.
It's amazing. Isn't that amazing?
That's awesome.
Okay, do we have any hands? If you don't know how to raise your hand electronically, just wave in the camera if you'd like to ask Steve a question. I got Philomena. Do you want to ask Steve a question, or do you want some healing or coaching, or want to talk to Steve? Your voice is not. I can't hear you. You need to fix your voice. We can't hear you. You need to push the little buttons. They're little icons above or below, depending on your system. Hold on, Philomena. Hold on. Now, Philomena, there you go.
Okay.
Ask away. Go ahead.
Okay, so I've been dealing with, I guess, like an unknown illness for like 10 years. It's been muscle weakness.
What was happening before 10 years? What was your life like then? I still hear you. I lost your vision, but I still hear you.
Okay.
Anything going on in your life before then?
Before I was healthy, I was able to do things. Nothing runs in my family. I mean, the only thing I could think of is that I did purchase a house, and that was the only different thing. I know that I kind of go back and try to think.
I'm going to use a different technique with you. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. You kind of go back and what?
I try to think back on every little thing that happened in my life, and I don't know if I ate something bad, but I know that my immune system
Yeah.
went down at one point, and I don't know if
Yeah.
I caught something from that, and
Right.
then an
Okay.
autoimmune disease came into fact. I'm not sure.
Well, I'm gonna try to give you some insight based on my experience, and then I'm going to use my intuition and see if anything comes up. The first thing I want to tell you is that it's important to look and guess and wonder, just like you're doing. However, we don't want to necessarily believe that we're that weak that we can catch something or eat something that would become an ongoing long-term mystery chronic illness. There's a gentleman named Anthony Williams who's got a book called Medical Medium, and he traces a lot of these problems that we have towards undetected viruses. But the real question is, why are we impacted by this? It's not necessarily because we got bit by a tick. It might be more that our immune system, for whatever reason, was become vulnerable because of a traumatic life experience, which might not even be recognized as a traumatic life experience. One of the things that I can do with people when I'm working through problems that we don't know is go and do a timeline approach just to get a sense. And I'd like to just try that with you and see if anything comes up. I'll just give you a quick explanation of what this was. Somebody did an auction and won a reading from me, and she was, her whole issue was that it wasn't a disease. It was, she's having a hard time getting back on track and to have a good relationship. And she didn't tell me much more about her life. And I just thought about asking her this question. Said, tell me what was going on when you were 36 years old. And she said, well, that's the year I got divorced. And so now we had a framework of what to talk about.
Right.
So in your case, we don't know what it is, but if I can maybe give you a clue, so I'm getting a sense that something from around when you were age 18 may have been the root of this. Was there anything happening in that time in your life that you can think of that might have been significant to you emotionally or in your life physically?
Yeah, it was my first relationship, and it really wasn't a good one.
So,
I stayed with him for 2 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
Phil, this is what I want you to do. I'm going to teach everybody, or I'm going to demonstrate a little technique that I use that I call energetic rescripting. And I'm just going to assume that there is a concept that you have in your subconscious mind that holds that you're never going to be able to heal from that injury, the injury of the relationship that didn't go well. If it doesn't make any sense to you, that's fine. But I want you to hold the idea in your mind. Just say, I can be well again.
I can be, say that again?
I can be well again.
I can be well again. Say
now, just tune in and tell me how strongly you feel that is true for you. A little true, a lot true, not true at all.
No, it's
completely true.
It's very true. I'm always positive, even after 10 years, that this will clear up somehow.
Yeah, good. So let me use this as an opportunity to explain something to the entire listening audience. Our mind is only looking at one part of our awareness, and we've all been trained to have positive, big fad about positive psychology, always think positive. But the subconscious doesn't do that. The subconscious is always trying to protect us. And what it does is it encodes memory and creates its own belief system that says yes or no, depending upon what the circumstance is. So if I were to muscle test you, say I can be well again. Say it again.
I can be well again.
So when I tune in and read that in muscle test, my muscle test shows that there's a weakness there. That means that there's some part of your subconscious that is saying no, while your conscious mind that wants to say, no, I want this to be true, but it's not true in the subconscious. And guess what? The subconscious rules the road.
Yeah.
So we need to correct whatever energetic patterns are in the subconscious so that I can be well again all of a sudden feels like a true empowered idea, and that starts you down the road of healing. All right. So that's the first thing I do when somebody comes to me in a situation like that. And I'm going to run you through a little process. Just repeat after me. And what I want you to do is I want you to locate the flat spot on the side of your hand and start tapping on it right there.
Okay.
You keep tapping, and all you need to do is repeat after me. And I'm going to intuit what to say. So say, even though I don't trust, even if it's not true to your mind or not, just say it. Even though I don't trust.
Even though I don't
repeat after me what is happening. Even though I don't trust, we can all say it.
I can be well again. I can be well again.
I could be well again.
That I can be well again.
Steve, you're breaking
I
up.
deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply, completely accept myself.
I completely accept myself.
Now, this is a technique that comes from energy psychology, and most people are familiar with EFT. But this is a slightly different application of EFT because I'm using intuition and this particular phrase that I intuited for you. And what we're doing is we're correcting the change in the brain that occurs when you say it that's not detectable to your conscious mind. It's in the subconscious. So this corrects it. Even though I don't trust.
Even though I don't trust.
I can be well again.
I can be well again.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
Sometimes this might bring an emotion up, and if it does, let us know. Otherwise, we'll just, make believe that there's no emotion there, and we'll just tap, okay? Even one more time, even though I don't trust.
Even though I don't trust.
I can be well again.
I can be well again.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply, completely accept myself.
Okay. Just stop for a moment, and you might want to put your hands on your heart and take a breath so that we can set the new pattern from that. And I'm going to go and see if there's more rescripting that needs to be done. I think I know, I feel, believe, trust, serve, I expect, deserve, worthy, it's good for me. Now, I know this doesn't make any sense to the conscious mind, but this is what comes up for me. So please just tap along, even though it's not good for me to be well again.
Even though it's not
good for me to be well again. I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though it's not good for me to be well again.
Even though it's not good for me to be well again.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply, completely accept myself.
Even though it's not good for me to be well again.
Even though it's not well enough for me to be well again.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply, completely accept
myself. Now, in a
psychic
psychic reading, the psychic might offer you insight as to why some part of your subconscious mind might think that it wouldn't be good for you, because that doesn't make any sense, right? But that's just part of our psychological makeup. When I do this work, I don't bother going there because I just identified where a problem is and I corrected it. So now the statement, it's good for me to be well again, is true for you. And I'm going to go ahead and see if I intuit any other things that we need to rescript, okay? Good for me, good for others, safe. Okay, tapping. Even though it's not safe for me to be well again.
Even though it's not safe for me to be well again.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though it's not safe for me to be well again.
Even though it's not safe for me to be well again.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though it's not safe for me to be well again.
Even though it's not safe for me to be well again.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Safe, free, hands on our heart, and let's process that one. So I don't know if you'll notice the difference, but if you say, I can be well again, I'm just curious to notice whether or not there's any subtle difference in the way it feels to you as you affirm it. I can be well again.
I can be well again.
Yeah.
I can be well again.
Yeah. So you're free to use that affirmation now anytime, knowing that we knocked out any subconscious bugaboo that would say no to that. And that's discovery, everything else becomes discovery. So you might start to ask your own intuition, why might I be having muscle weakness? What is that doing to me? How could it possibly show me anything I need to? Nobody expects that muscle weakness is a good thing, but the brain is incredibly smart in being able to communicate to your body, what it needs to show you through your body so that you can learn how to heal something that you haven't recognized. So, weakness sometimes is a reaction to I can't be strong. That make any sense? So you might look at things that require you to be strong in life and then notice what emotions or feelings might come up along with that. And then if you learn EFT, now you have another technique that you use to heal yourself every time you come up with something that you want to feel strong with, but you don't feel that you have the strength to accomplish it. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Oh, Philomena, where are you calling in from? We're always curious.
New York.
Okay, cool. Well, you can
Yeah.
leave a message for Steve either on the event page on Facebook or on Google Plus. I don't know I don't know what the cookie crumb trail is to how you got here, but
No, yeah, my friend is his daughter-in-law.
Oh, awesome. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That works. Now we've got now Steve, how's your energy? Because we got Ginger who's been waving her hand.
This doesn't drain my energy. This energizes me.
You're good to go?
I'm tapping into energy fields that are energizing and healing. So.
That's the wonderful thing about doing this practice. It doesn't drain you. We got Ginger who's desperately waving her hand. So go ahead, Ginger. Can we hear you? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
Hi, Ginger.
Hi, Steve.
How
and
can we
thank
help
you.
You're welcome. What's going on?
Well, I've been having terrible IBS problems, and I want to be healed.
Okay, what are you doing about being healed?
Well, I tap, I pray, and I have to take medication.
Does the medication help?
Yes, one of them does. It calms my anxieties and my fears.
Okay,
and my stress. I'm under a lot of stress.
Right. And what kind of stress are you under?
Well, my business and also money and being alone.
Yeah, all of those things are sort of tied together in one way or another. So you are aware, of course, that IBS is typically something that even the medical professionals assume is a function of unresolved stress, correct?
I'm sorry, they're not what the medical professionals? I didn't hear you.
Even medical professionals recognize that IBS is a direct function of stress, unresolved stress in your life.
That's right. Brain to gut.
Yes. Well, yes and no. It's more of an energetic problem with what you said earlier, which is the anxiety.
Right.
So
can you please help?
Well, the only thing I can do there is coach you on how to tap and how to pray.
Okay, thank you. I will accept that graciously.
Yeah, it's important to recognize that when we have problems in our lives, they cause us concern, especially when we don't seem to have an answer for what the cause of the problem is. And the concern builds and builds and builds and becomes a stress all on its own. So when we tap or we pray from a sense of fear and panic at a desperation, then those prayers don't work. And the tapping is only reinforcing the anxiety and the stress. So somehow we have to tap in such a way that we're actually addressing the source of the problem, which in your case sounds like it's anxiety about financial difficulties and business situations. And also being alone might be related or might not be related, because if you were with somebody and able to have a financial relationship as well, that might be able to cause you to have less anxiety. So by tuning in and even guessing at what the true cause of the anxiety is, we tap on the anxiety. With EFT, we have two approaches. One is we tune into the actual physical symptom of the IBS, the tension, the pain, the discomfort in the belly, and we just simply tap on the symptom. And then we tap on the worry about having IBS, even though I have IBS and I don't know how to solve it. That would be something you can say that's real. There's no fear in that. But if you feel the fear, now you're back in the body saying, I feel the anxiousness. So even though I'm still anxious about having IBS, I deeply and completely accept myself. And then you tap and tap and tap, and you will notice at least some relief from the anxiety. If you're not, then you're in a place where your energy system has become so distorted that we can't do anything easily. You've got to find a way of getting around it, and that's where faith comes in. The thing that we say when we tap is, even though I have this problem, I deeply and completely accept myself. The deeply and completely accept myself is a statement of factual faith to our brain. It's saying, even though I have this problem, I'm still okay. So if you're not able to say I'm okay because you have the problem, then that becomes the new problem. Even though I'm not able to believe or say that I can be healed or I'm okay, I'm going to do my best anyway. I'm going to affirm that I can accept myself. So you've got to dig a little bit deeper to see where the source is coming from. If you're feeling that there is a stress coming from a life circumstance, just go through the life circumstance. If your business is not doing well, we don't necessarily say, even though I'm stressed because my business is doing well, that'll take you down one level. But you can break that up into more functional pieces where, well, why isn't my business doing well? How do I know my business is doing well? What would happen if my business would fail? How would I feel? And really give yourself a chance to feel what that feels like now, and see if you can find for all of those feelings that traces back to a much, much, much earlier time in your life when the feeling is similar. In other words, when you were 10 years old, you probably weren't worried about your business succeeding or failing. But the feeling of anxiousness that's causing your IBS may be the same feeling of something that happened when you were much younger. So that's what you have to look for. And then you can start writing down all the memories that you have from years and years and years ago. Because the stress that's happening now is just stress that's still resonating with unresolved stress from the past. Yes, it might be true that you might have a difficult challenge with your personal situation now, but you should be resilient enough to be able to handle that stress without causing IBS. But when we don't resolve stress from trauma in our lives, over years and years and years and years, we're carrying a lot more. And then all of a sudden, something new comes along, and that puts us over the edge, and then we have a physiological reaction. I see you shaking your head a lot.
Pardon me?
I thought I saw you shaking your head a lot.
No, I know how to tap. Just tell me one good thing to say while I tap. I know you must move on.
Well, I was trying to give you an idea of how to explore where your emotions are coming from. So those ideas of how to tap come from you. If you're not quite sure, then you start with, even though I don't know how to start tapping on IBS, I deeply accept myself. That's where you start. When we do EFT, there is not one good thing to tap on. We're peeling layers of our conscious and our emotions away until we find a core that is underneath all of the stress, all of these feelings. And when we find that, then we have language for it.
Steve?
So obviously there's not enough time to do that with you tonight.
I just want to, again, I just want to jump. Can I just jump in for a sec?
Please do.
When you don't have the kinesiology, the amazing skills that you have of diagnosing and intuiting the exact cause, because I don't have the skill set that Steve has, I do what is called the shotgun approach, which is I tap on everything, okay? And Gary Craig, who was our teacher, used to make us do this. He doesn't do it anymore, but they used to we were told we wouldn't get our little merit badge, our EFT merit badge, if we didn't do what is called the personal peace procedure, which is
Right.
where you go back.
Yeah.
You go back and you make a shopping list, a laundry list of everything that happened to you that is of a negative nature, a 5 or above, and then you do the movie technique on each and every one. It could take months, but that used to be called the personal peace procedure. Now, that's the long way around if you don't have the, shall we say, the intuitive skills that Steve has, where he can rifle in and discover something quicker. But if you have the time, do the shotgun approach. Okay, go ahead.
That's what I'm explaining. Ginger, it's important for you to understand that if I just gave you the right words to tap on, that might get you one step of the way, but it disempowers you from your own ability to use your own intuition to guide yourself to discover really where these unresolved stresses are. So even if I gave you something right now, it's not going to fix your IBS. It's just going to get you started. So I don't want to disempower you by offering you something that is only going to take you this far when you need to go that far.
Okay, so it's
hard. I just want you to take your power back and march on. What Tony said is an excellent idea. Just tap on everything you can possibly think about, and eventually your stress level will go down so that your intuitive channels will open up, and your own intuitive sense, your own inner self, your own higher self, your own guardian angels, whatever it is, it's going to start letting you know and guiding you towards your healing.
And
Thank you.
Ginger,
God bless
leave a
you.
message. Leave a message
welcome.
on Facebook or Google. Okay, Ginger.
I'm always happy to respond to anything.
Okay, now how's your energy, Steve? Because we've got Nimesh who's raised his hand.
Okay.
Nimesh, are you there? I think you're on mute, but let me unmute you. Hold on. Nimesh, are you there?
Hi there, yes.
And where are you located, Nimesh, just for curiosity?
Yeah, sure. I'm located in London.
Amazing.
Good old London town.
Okay, you have a question for Steve. Go ahead, please.
I did, Steve. Yes. Hi. The question that I had for you was, I was wondering if you could see if I have some sort of blockage in my third eye, which is preventing me from seeing or opening it.
What is it that you're looking to see or open?
Sorry?
What is it that you're hoping to see by opening it?
I suppose it's to access. It's to, I suppose, go more into meditation, but also because I'm a Reiki practitioner, and
Yes.
I'm also do energy healing in another modality as well.
Right.
And I'm not going to lie, it's something that I'm fascinated by doing as well. And I know, by law of attraction, sometimes the more obsessed you're with doing something, you're probably creating more frustrated energies around it rather than actually being able to do what you want to do.
Possibly, yeah.
But I've been trying for a while. But
what have you been trying for a while?
Meditating and in terms of opening and sort of just seeing, using my, sort of opening and sort of seeing through my third eye.
Okay, good. So, what is it you're hoping to accomplish by seeing through your third eye? I know I asked that question before, but I didn't really hear an actual answer.
Sure. Part of it is it's to have that connection, I suppose, to source, to create whatever it is, or whatever somebody, whatever you want to call it, but also in the essence of being able to access information and knowledge and being able to, hoping it can add to the energy work that I'm, that I've sort of started learning, and hopefully I can sort of go out and sort of give that to people.
Okay. So, first of all, I want to let you know that you already have access to all of that stuff. What I'm questioning is that your belief system that says that for some reason I don't feel that I have access to it. So I'm wondering if there's some sixth chakra, third eye blockage.
Yes. Yes.
Typically, we're blocked when we're just not able to use that part of our intuitive sense for our own guidance. This has nothing to do with your work as a Reiki practitioner. When you are trained in Reiki, you're given all of the experience and you're given the energetic connections that allow you to do that work. Remember, it's not you doing the work. That's what I was
Yes,
saying
of
earlier
course.
about my
No, you're just the
discovery.
vessel.
You know,
Yes.
it's not whether my sixth eye, my third eye was open or not. It's about my willingness to surrender my ego mind. And part of my ego mind might be telling me that I can't do this work if because I don't have, you know, I'm not seeing visions and I'm not hearing things. And I didn't allow that to stop me. I just had to get out of my own way because if I didn't allow myself to surrender, I wouldn't hear anything. Like I said, I wasn't brought up, you know, in a family that believed in psychics or had the ability. I didn't see magical things. I had to learn how to go really deep and trust this psychic ability. And if I didn't have the muscle testing, quite frankly, I'm not quite sure if I ever would have been trusting that I can allow spirit to, you know, to do its work through me. We all have that ability to do it. So the first thing I want you to understand is that there may or may not be a blockage there. Next thing I'll do is I'll see if there's a blockage there for you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay. So there is. So the question is, why would there be that? Some people might say, well, maybe there's something that you don't want to see. It might be a case where you just haven't gotten that level of development yet because, you know, as we build our gifts, apparently we get to certain levels of mastery. And then whoever is the gift giver, it gives us the opportunity to open up. It's sort of like when the student is ready, the teacher shows up, right? Let me see if I get another sense about this for you, okay? For my intuition, I'll shut myself up until I get an intuitive hit. How's that sound?
Thank you. No, I appreciate that.
You're doing great, Steve.
You know, my sense is you're just trying too hard. Yeah, you got it. So meditation is a funny thing. We get mental, and if we don't get a sense that something is happening, then we get lost in our mind. There's a wonderful practice, and you can actually buy biofeedback tools from an organization called HeartMath, where you can learn a great meditation. And my friend Dawson Church has put up a very simple 20-minute guided meditation. It's not guaranteed necessarily to open up your third eye, but it is a very simple form of meditation. The problem with meditation is as soon as we get quiet and listen, then our mind starts going. And now we think we're not meditating because we're paying attention to our mind. But we can pay attention to our mind without getting lost in it and still feel what the inner body is doing. All this intuitive work is getting to ourselves to a place where we're able to feel ourself. And if we're able to feel ourselves, eventually we give up our attachment to the realm of the mind long enough so that maybe we can discern parts of the mind that are talking to us that are from an intuitive realm rather than the normal chit chat that our minds, the monkey mind, we all experience. So you are trying too hard. So that means that, hold on. Tell me about trying too hard. What is it that you're trying to accomplish, and how have you accomplished other masteries in your life using what skills?
Generally, I suppose it's always a lot more just determination. And I think you are correct in what you're saying. I'm trying too hard, and you know, I won't give up on it, but it's frustrating. And I know that's probably
so there it is. I understand it. So spiritual development is a completely different process than most of the things that we're trained in our world to be good at. I'll give you an example. When I was working with myself one day, doing my own mind-body biofeedback with one of these tools from HeartMath, what it does is it measures heart rate variability, which is something that shows the state of your nervous system. When we're stressed, we can't think clearly. When we're relaxed, then our nervous system balances itself out, and all of a sudden a channel opens from the brain to the heart. And the heart is really where our intuition speaks from, not our head. We're so conditioned to try to formulate information in our head that it gets so noisy that it blocks information coming from the heart. So that gives us a chance to balance these things out. So because it's biofeedback, I can tell whether I'm in that zone or not. And one day I was not in the zone, and I was pretty good at mastering being in the zone. And all of a sudden I'm not, and I'm going, well, what's going on here? So I'm trying this technique, I'm trying that technique, I'm breathing different, I'm thinking about different things. Nothing is working.
Sounds familiar.
Finally, I got reminded of some advice that came from a nice Buddhist philosopher: do nothing.
Exactly.
So I said, all right, what happens if I stop trying? What happens if I do nothing? And as soon as I had that thought, a moment later, all of a sudden the biofeedback woke up, my nervous system came into coherence, and I got back in the zone.
Excellent.
So I just want you to watch how your mind struggles to have to do something and have to try harder. And then recognizing that with spiritual development, we've got to learn how to take all that and not pay any attention to it, so we can stay centered in our true self and naturally allow it to come. I'm getting from my muscle testing that that's probably the best advice I could have gotten you. And you will find that your third eye will just naturally open, and you will start to bring in insights that will start to sound just natural, just natural knowing and natural sensing things. Tony, does that sound about right to you?
Again, the only thing I would say is that, you know what, spiritual growth, like life, is nonlinear.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just takes more life, and more experience, and more growth. Exactly what Steve's saying.
And less effort is more, and surrender sometimes the most powerful things we can
Letting
do.
go and surrender, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
By the way, you see the lovely lady over on this side, Ileana. I promised her that she was very upset earlier on, and I promised her that
What was she upset about?
Well, I'm going to let her talk, but I promised that she could have a little mini session with you. So go ahead, Ileana. You want to unmute?
Sure. Well, I won't get into all that, but it was like my kids. But I do a lot of healing work for myself and everything else. And maybe my question would be like where to start, I guess.
Where to start on what?
Like whenever I try to do whenever I tried to do the list of like all the stuff that's happened and all that stuff, like I had to put the pen down. I mean, there's just so much stuff.
Yeah, we hear it already. Ileana, you've heard us talk about emotional freedom technique. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I do it with Tony all the time.
Yeah, okay, good. So you're dealing with an excessive amount of overwhelm.
Yeah.
So you're not yet at a point where you can actually do that list.
Right.
So the list is there as a cleanup. We have to take what's in front of us and deal with it first. The first thing we're dealing with is the emotional overwhelm. All right. Mm-hmm. So we simply tap and we say, even though I'm dealing with so much emotional overwhelm that there's no way I can even contemplate the list, I deeply and completely accept myself. At a recent workshop this summer, I was helping out a woman in an EFT workshop. When we started talking about this process, all of a sudden she became so overwhelmed. She goes, oh my God, there's so many things to work on. How am I going to ever do it? And that became the problem. So I was able to calm her down in about 20 minutes, and that wasn't the problem anymore. So those things are always there. But if you start thinking about any one of those problems, it sounds like they're so emotionally reactive to you that it's not possible for you to even go there. So if you work with Tony, he'll show you some techniques that you can use to go there without going there until you're able to go there. And then you don't want to write the whole list down. You want to just start with one thing. Right. And you don't want to start with the biggest thing, And as you start to recalibrate your brain's response to all of the emotional stress that you've had in your life, you'll be able to get to a point where you can start to deal with it. Give me one thing right now that is really at the top of your list of things that you would like a little bit of help with. That's something that you would make the difference in your life right now.
Well, what would make the biggest difference in my life is that my business be successful, like really successful.
Well, you mentioned something about your kids before, so now I'm hearing something else.
Well, but that's how I would get my kids.
Ah.
Yeah.
So you're giving us hints of a deeper level of complication in your life. If I had to guess.
My ex is the narcissist. So
yeah, I get it. Okay, so that's where it all is. You treat yourself first to accepting the fact that somehow you got involved with someone who turned out to be not what you were hoping for and has put you in a situation that is very painful for you. And as you start, and even if that's hard to accept, remember, this is, even though I got myself into that situation and now I'm hurting for it, I deeply accept myself. You're putting the cart before the horse a little bit. You're saying, well, if I have a business, then I'll have money, and I have money, I'll have resources to be able to get my kids back. But you're not dealing with the emotional problem. When you deal with the emotional problem, you give yourself access to your own resources so that you can be more productive and more lively. So don't worry about that. Deal with the problem as if it is a psychological, emotional trauma, which I believe it must be for you.
I believe that.
Yeah. So you want to somehow find a gentle way of going through that experience with your narcissist ex. Is it an ex?
He was a boyfriend.
Yeah, boyfriend. So look at the ways that you're still feeling the impact of it. Let me do for you what I did for the I forget the
Ginger.
Who was Ginger in the beginning, and see if I can come up with an empowerment script for you, okay? And I'm going to intuit one for you, all right?
Okay.
So we're going to be tapping on the karate chop point, all right?
Okay.
So what does it mean to say, is it I can get my kids back? What does that mean? What happens when you contemplate that idea? Does that idea have relevance for you?
Yeah, like I even went to school and was a social work major and a pre-law minor. Like I've tried really hard and it didn't work out.
You feel those emotions there. So
yeah, I feel the failure.
Yeah. So you can tap on, even though I've worked really hard and it hasn't worked out, I deeply and completely accept myself. And now what you do is you keep tapping, but you're feeling the emotions. So tapping is more, the words and the language that we use in tapping is only to get us to the point where we're actually feeling the emotions.
Right.
So that may be a true statement for you. So you've worked really hard at a lot of things and it hasn't seemed to work out yet. All of a sudden becomes a way of reframing it. But I've worked really hard and it hasn't worked out. It's still carrying a huge emotional content for you. So we're tapping on that. Let me see if I can clear that out for you. Well, I'm still getting, I can get my kids back.
Right,
okay, so let's just focus on that one for a moment.
Okay.
So tap and say, even though I don't, just tap on the side of the hand here. And if no emotions come up, we won't do any other tapping. Otherwise, we might. Even though I don't think I will get my kids back.
Even though I don't think I can get my kids
I
back.
deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept
Even though I don't think I can get my kids back.
Even though I don't think I can get my kids back.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Yeah, one more time. Even though I don't think I can get my kids back.
Even though I don't think I can get my kids back.
Are you doing okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Is anything coming up for you?
Oh yeah.
What's coming up for you now?
Pain, I guess.
Guessing, or are you feeling it?
Well, it's heart pain.
Yeah, okay. Even though I have this heart pain.
Even though I have this heart pain.
Yeah, I deeply and completely accept myself. Yeah. So that idea causes the heart pain. So we're shifting is the part of the subconscious that says, I don't think I can get my kids back. We're deactivating that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the heart pain comes up, so we can tap on that heart pain.
Okay.
All right. There's a tapping procedure that a lot of people aren't aware of because it sort of got dropped out of the basic protocol, and it involves tapping on the back of the hand right here. Can you see this? There's a groove between these two bones there. Yeah, we tap there. And while we're tapping there, we feel that heartache. And let's see if you can see my eyes here. I don't know if you can see. I'm going to roll them around in circles. So I'm stretching my eyes.
I don't. I'm trying.
Yeah, yeah. So this helps us to process that emotion, nice and slow. So if you start at the 6 o'clock position, which is straight down,
Okay.
and you start to roll them up towards your right ear, and then up towards the top of your head, and then over the other side towards your left ear, and then down to the 6 o'clock position. While you're tapping all the ways on this space here, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And then reverse directions. That's going to help our brain to be able to sort out what those heart pain emotions are all about.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And then we just go back over here and we tap on, even though I don't think.
Even though I don't think.
I can get my kids back.
I can get my kids back.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely
And
accept
give yourself a little heart hug and breathe through there. And let's continue on. I think I know, I feel, I believe, I trust, serve, and I expect to deserve, and worthy is good for me. It's good for us to save. That was it. That was the one that brought up the emotions for you.
Yeah, I think it's the thing that really.
Yeah. So let's look at the heart chakra now. And let's give your heart chakra a little treatment here.
Okay.
Now, I want you to say, I think I can get my kids back.
I think I can get my kids back.
Yeah. How does that feel to you when you say it?
Like I'm lying.
Does it really?
A little bit. I mean, I have some hope.
Right. Okay, good. So the part that feels like you're lying, what's your mind saying to you that makes it seem like a lie? It's not possible. I don't have the money.
Well, I usually don't fail like at anything because I try really hard.
Okay. So you understand the basic problem now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even though it seems like I failed at this, and I usually never fail at anything else, and this is probably the most important thing in my life that I should never have failed at. Okay. So we're working on that. So if you usually don't fail, and yet I say, I think I get my kids back, some trauma has gotten to you so much that it doubts your ability to be able to succeed now in this very important endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what is it saying to you? It says, I can't do it. I don't deserve it. It's not going to happen. I don't have the money. When you say, I think I can get my kids back, what's the mind saying?
It's I would say, like, maybe at the core, it's like a problem with getting justice, with like shedding light on, like, love prevailing, I guess, like the truth winning.
That's a very interesting concept, and I would like to be able to explore that with you, but I don't have the time. We don't have the time tonight to do it. I'm gonna ask you a more basic question.
Sure, yeah.
If you would simply affirm, I can get my kids back, and then stop your mind and wait. What's the next thought that comes into your mind? Not a description or an explanation, the actual thought. I can get my kids back. What does your mind go? No, yes, maybe, can't happen?
Like the first one is that they already have written me off as somebody that's crazy.
Okay, so you feel the emotion there?
Yeah, they don't believe me.
Yeah, so that's another thing to tap on.
Okay.
Even though I don't think I can get them back because they've written me off and they think I'm crazy. All right, so that's one of the problems. So what else happens when you say, I think I can get my kids back?
The judge is like...
The legal system won't let me.
Yeah,
so right. Even though I'm afraid the legal system won't let me, I deeply and completely accept myself.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are two. So once you clear those, you keep going. You keep writing a list of everything that happens when you say, I can get my kids back. And as soon as you hear the reason your mind tells you why you can't, because you say it
Oh,
feels like a lie, right? You
that's so
write down
crazy.
what your mind tells you, and those are all the things you can tap on. And when you clear the energy out, then you ask yourself, well, why can't I get my kids back? And if that stuff stops rushing in, you've cleared it.
Right.
So now
Steve?
you're in a better position to be able to affirm, I can get my kids back, and you will find the resources. Beautiful, talented, smart, creative. You've never failed at anything. You're not going to fail at this. You just met a stumbling block, and you're going to just grow from this. I know that's kind of hard to believe, when you're feeling so much emotional disturbance around it now, but this is just temporary.
See, Steve, just again, you're doing great work. And Ileana, I hope you see everything is fixable, okay? And you're not hopeless, okay? But I will say time. Ileana's in a little bit of a rush.
Well,
Okay.
you'd be surprised when you really knock these things out, how
Right.
law of attraction shifts in your favor because you're no longer carrying "I can't get my kids back" as an
Right.
energetic form that you're broadcasting to the universe.
Right. No, I'm just trying to
Yeah,
explain
it took
something.
like 5 years to get this way. But
Right.
Well, now we've got to knock it out.
Right, and one step at a time as
And
well.
then we never know what the universal timing is anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
hard
it's
to
my
guess.
justice problem. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, listen, it's been an awesome,
Good
awesome
luck.
Thank you
session.
so much.
Yeah,
Yes,
very
break a
well.
leg. Everybody, Steve, I want to thank you for being on, and you gave some excellent demonstrations of your skill set. And anybody who's interested in connecting with Steve, feel free to leave a message. Okay, and also we'll be on again on. We're going to be on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Where we'll be having a psychic or a healer or a practitioner, and this will be the format where there'll be an interview and then there'll be an opportunity for a demonstration or reading, whatever. So, guys, I thank you all. Thank you, Steve, again. Everybody, let's all give Steve some props here.
Good luck to everybody.
Thank
you, Tony. Thank you, Tony, for putting this together. You're amazing. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. God bless. Bye, guys.
Okay, bye, everybody.